What does it take to erase a nation? Famine? Gulags? Nuclear blackmail? Today, Ukraine marks 34 years of independence. But our story is 1,000 years older. They tried to starve us, silence us, rewrite us. They even made us give up the third largest nuclear arsenal in history. The only deterrent that actually works, keeping the enemy away. But Ukraine got assurances that later would deem the biggest betrayal of modern history. And still, here we are. Hello, my name is Slavie, and this is Channel Yarchenko. Welcome. Today, as we honor Ukraine's Independence Day, we're not just looking back, we're telling the whole truth. The pain, the courage, the betrayals, and the fight that's still raging now. 34 years since Ukraine broke from the Soviet Union. August 24th, 1991, the Verkhovna Rada declared independence. December 1st, 1991, the people confirmed it. 92.3% voted yes, more than 84% turnout. That vote came after decades of domination, famine, purges, and systematic attempts to erase a nation. It didn't create Ukraine, it confirmed something older. Ukraine's story does not begin in 1991. It does not begin in Moscow. It begins in the age of Kyivan Rus. 1,000 years ago, when Kyiv was a center of power, law, and faith. Under Yaroslav the Wise, Ukraine built cathedrals, wrote laws, traded with Europe. And Moscow, it wouldn't appear on a map until 1147. Later, Muscovy renamed itself to Russia, stealing the name Rus to claim a history that was not theirs. When theft failed, repression followed. Under the Tsars, Ukrainian language was banned. Under Stalin, millions starved in the Holodomor. Generations of poets and thinkers got executed. Books were burned. Churches were banned. Culture throttled. Then came the iron decades of Soviet rule. For most Ukrainians, there was no way out. Borders were sealed, religion mocked, religion was banned, shelves were empty. Every field and factory belonged to the state. Speaking Ukrainian would get you thrown in jail, or worse, get you murdered. Parents taught their children the words they weren't allowed to say in public. A culture not scattered, but it was hidden, kept alive like an ember pressed under glass. The songs sung softly, embroidery stitched at night. Language was whispered in the kitchen. Language had to be whispered in the kitchen. And then another wound. 1986, Chernobyl. The reactor exploded, the truth got buried. Hundreds of thousands. Poisoned wind crossed borders. While Soviet officials denied it and delayed it, even our disasters were hidden in silence. But freedom here has a memory. Long before Paris or Philadelphia, the Ukrainian steppe gave birth to the Cossacks. Frontier warriors, they were rebels who refused to bow. They carved their own state, the Hetmanate, and in 1710 drafted the Constitution of Philip Orlik, one of Europe's first democratic blueprints, limiting power and protecting rights. A century before the French Revolution, or the US Constitution. Ukraine didn't stumble into democracy, it wrote it. When the Soviet Union collapsed, Ukraine inherited not just freedom, but raw power, the world's third largest nuclear arsenal. About 1,900 strategic warheads, hundreds of missiles, strategic bombers. Ukraine chose peace. Ukraine chose peace. Under the Budapest Memorandum of 1994, it agreed to disarm, trusting Russia, the United States, and United Kingdom to respect its sovereignty and borders. Those signatures were supposed to mean something. They didn't. When Russian troops crossed into Crimea in 2014, those promises dissolved like ink and water. Ukrainians rose on Maidan, demanding dignity and a European future. But Moscow answered like a crazy ex-boyfriend with theft and violence. If I can't have you, nobody else can. Crimea was seized and war lit in Donbass. And for 8 years, Ukraine held the line, building an army out of almost nothing. On February 24th, 2022, full-scale invasion. Columns of tanks, missiles. Before dawn, cities were burning. The world said Kyiv would fall in 3 days. Russia thought that it would take Kyiv in 3 days, but they didn't know Ukraine. Farmers were towing tanks, students filling Molotovs, grandmothers, yes, grandmothers, throwing jars of pickled tomatoes at drones because that's all what they had. It wasn't just soldiers. It was a nation defending its very soul. Then came more betrayals. In 2023 and 2024, the US under the last administration gave just enough to survive, keep breathing. It was never enough to win. Weapons were delayed, ammo was rationed. Strikes were forbidden inside Russia to defend itself. Kyiv was meant to fall completely. And still Ukraine fought on. This brutal American administration from this past week, Zelensky stood at the White House with Trump, with European leaders as well. They pressed for real security guarantees, paper promises. Talks are underway for a historic 90 billion arms package financed by Europe. F-16s, long-range missiles, air defense finally closed the sky. And the twist? America now wants to buy Ukrainian drones. Of course, they're battle-tested tech that's been reshaping the future of warfare. And Ukraine is not stopping at drones. I'm sure you guys heard of the Flamingo. It's getting mass-produced right now. It's a Ukrainian-made cruise missile born in war, designed by architects and gamers turned engineers. And then you get a Flamingo. Zelensky actually calls it the most successful missile we have. A weapon that says, we will protect ourselves. This day isn't just marked in Kyiv. It's marked in Chicago, Toronto, Warsaw, Buenos Aires. Everywhere Ukrainians fled when home was dangerous. Those who left carried what others tried to bury. Songs, embroidery, language. They kept it alive behind closed doors. Ukrainian culture was never scattered. It was just pressed down and hidden and guarded like a secret treasure until the day it could rise again. And it did. Backfired. Now everybody knows Ukrainian culture. Good job, Russia. 34 years after independence, 11 years into this war, the question for the free world is simple. Will you stand with Ukraine? Or let dictators dictate our borders, our map? So when the world sees blue and yellow today, know this. It's not the flag of a young state. It's the soul of an ancient nation. A people who endured tsars and communism, famine, nuclear blackmail, so many betrayals, Chernobyl, and war, and who still stand. We were here before Moscow. We will be here long after this war, and long after any empire forgets its lies. To everyone who supports this channel and others like it, you keep us armed in this information war. Every like, every share, every comment, every donation is fuel. Subscribe to Yarchenko if you're new here. Like this video, leave a comment, share it. Donate if you can. Buy me a coffee link is in the show notes below. 34 years after independence, 11 years into this war, Ukraine is still fighting for its right to exist and holding the line for the free world. What will it take for people to realize that if we don't stop dictators now, they will write the rules of our future? On that note, I'm Slavie on channel Yarchenko. Thank you for tuning in. God bless America and Slava Ukraini.